Some of the choices that they made when doing the design, they wanted to use SMS for configuration. So make use of what's already there within Solaris 10. Use services. And so we have services that start up within the mini root. And if you do the install, you'll see a service during the install called, right now it's called auto install. And this service basically will control all the other, all the activities that go on behind the scene to be able to do that install. It gives us the ability to log on to the client, see what's going on, see what the install is doing, see log files, and gives us the ability to build dependencies as well. So like I said, it's dependent on DNS. I can make it dependent on making sure that DNS service is started so that I don't have any problems, which was actually a bug. They didn't do that in the beginning. Yes, sir.
Does it support secure DNS? Does it support secure DNS?
Not today. The DNS is mainly just to do lookups. So when you're doing the lookups, I don't think it'd be that hard to configure each one of these clients doing the install to secure DNS, because it's supporting HTTPS for getting some of the archives. I don't think it'd be that difficult to configure it that way.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I see the desire to be able to plug a box in anywhere in a corporate network and have it configure without having to go to a specific network or a specific place. On the other hand, corporate networks are going internally hostile. And so that's why I was curious.
I mean, all it does is does a query on the DNS. And so if you're just doing a query, you just have to make sure that you have the right protocols. Now, the other part of it is the install server actually does do a dynamic update. You don't have to, but it does do a dynamic update to include the service records within your DNS server. That's the part where I'd be curious whether it supports secure DNS. I hadn't seen any plans on that, but that's a good question.
Like I say, even for the initial lookup, you want it to be secure because some auditor will come up with as well. You know, what if there is a compromised machine on the network, you know, the sales dude's laptop, and it spoofs the DNS and it happens to be closer, it gives the first reply, and it then has a couple of versions of some services on there that allow it to compromise the server coming up.
Yeah.
Well, it was just devil's advocate kind of thinking.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's one I don't know the answer to if there's any plans to do any type of secure DNS. Because with multicast DNS, I see that being a bigger problem.
And part of it, too, is you just have the whole bootstrapping problem because that all works off of keys. So that means you have to have some way to get the key onto the client system ahead of time for it to be able to authenticate it. So you kind of...
As long as the keys, you can build the images yourself, so within the mini root, if you can have the keys within the mini root, you can accomplish that. But still, like I said, I haven't seen any plans on that. I don't think it'd be that difficult to implement. I just don't see a large demand on it. I guess the other one that we hadn't really talked about is it'll use IPS in order to install a lot of the packages. So you have your mini root, you have your images that you build. You can use distro constructor to be able to build an image or something else like that. And then later on, when it goes out to start including some of its packages in its hash clusters, it will actually use IPS to go out there to the repository. So by default, it will probably point out to package.opensolaris.org. But if you wanted to build your own repository and have an internal repository that it points to, you could also do that and set it to look at different repositories. So dev, package, whatever it may be. So a little bit about how it works. First, actually, is this my modified version? No, this is x86. For the client boots and it gets its IP address, etc., from DHCP. Pixie Grub then sets a microroot and then Solaris boot. Then we'll go out there and be able to take the SMS service and the auto install will load the rest of the net image. Once that net image is loaded, the SMS service will go out and do the discovery using, by default, multicast DNS unless you tell it manually to use unicast. So it goes out there and it queries what all services are available out there. Yeah, if for some reason DNS is not available, say multicast, or you haven't told it unicast, it will use configuration files. So this is for environments that may not have the capability of using DNS or have local DNS. The client will contact the web server, the AI web server, and by default it'll use HTTP, but there is plans to also use NFS to download each one of the services or each one of the images and the bits. Then it will use what's called the AI manifest to be able to complete all the installation. Spark is pretty much the same process, except it's not Pixie and it doesn't use, in the beginning for the microroot for x86 uses TFTP. Spark's pretty much the same way, except it uses WAMBoot implementation. Uses WAMBoot to get the CGI. This is basically the same process, but you notice you can replace many of the different protocols with WAMBoot.
So you don't use the MAC address of the network port anymore?
I can't. I don't have to. That's the thing. Is client is. I'm not worried so much. If I want to, we'll get into this, and this is where the manifests come in. The manifest actually.
That's where I'm a little confused because
So within the manifest, I can use MAC address to assign a certain criteria to the machine. So there are three different types of manifest, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I can actually define by MAC address what a certain client will get, and there's configuration rules for that, or I can define it by IP address, I can define it by all these. But no longer am I worried about having to know all the client information, going setting up the install server to know that information, set up the rules and profiles and everything for that.
okay.
Well, DHCP still sort of uses the MAC address.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have to worry about.
I know you don't have to set up dedicated configuration files or anything.
Exactly. I mean, this works off of the macros that go through DHCP, but from an install server point of view, I'm not worried about that anymore, which is actually really nice. Just a graphical representation of kind of the way that things work. The client boots, gets the microroot. Like I said, this is both Spark x86. You get, with the microroot, you'll have the SMS file system, root services, so this will be like a mini root user, those sorts of things. Then the AI service that's running on the client system, the auto installer service will go out there and start doing the client discovery. This is to determine what services that the client needs, etc. The AI client install service decision engine will decide which one, send it back over to the auto installer, which will then go out to the AI image, wherever that may be, the web server, and be able to pull down the required information in bits. I talked about simplification in the beginning. Just like the multiple other projects within Solaris, DLADM, for example, to do all your network configuration, whether you're doing crossbow or just setting up interfaces, things like that. Install ADM is the only tool for the AI setup. So on the server side, all you really ever would have to need for a simple setup is install ADM. And there are multiple subcommands that you have for the install ADM to be able to create the services, create the manifest, add manifest to existing services, list out the services. And there's a list of, I think, it's about 12 different subcommands that you have to know. But the good thing is they're all within the install ADM option.